Hi friends, hello, happy Friday. Whoosh, we made it to Friday, right friends? Hello, hello. I'm excited to be here today. I have a really fun card project I'm going to share today. Super easy, all still within my theme of easing into 2023. I see some friends popping in and friends are going to be popping in as we get going. Today, we're just going to do this really fun mashup, stamp set mashup of two of my sets in the Gina K Designs line called Fearless Joy and Today and Always. And we're going to do some really easygoing watercolor effects with Gina K inks. So I see a couple people popping in. Hi, Irma. Hi, Cherie. Hi, Kathy, Rhonda, and Gloria. Yay! So, okay, if this is your first time, and hi, Janie from snowy Minnesota. Ooh, snowy. I'm in Maryland and it's not raining. So let's just put it that way, right? It's not raining for like the first time in a couple days. It's sunny and super windy. So, hi Michelle. So happy to see everybody popping in. We are going to get started. I am excited for today. I've got a couple other announcements I'm going to make along the way. And we also have a new Gina K Designs release coming up next Tuesday. Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm always excited about our Gina K Designs releases, but I've got a new stamp set coming out next Tuesday, and like I'm in full-on prep and live mode and all the things. But I did want to come in today for our live. So let's go ahead and head to our down camera. And you can ask questions along the way, friends, and I will answer them. Let's get my glasses off here. Okay. Here is the card project that we're going to make today. It kind of, when I was making it, I was like, this is kind of a hot mess, but we're going to see what happens. We're doing you can see that everything on here has some washy watercolor effects. And I want to talk about creating this pattern and doing loose, super easygoing watercolor with the Gina K inks. And I just realized that I did not grab a brush. I'm going to need a brush. Okay. All right, so let's talk about the stamp sets and a quick look at the supplies. I will have the supplies linked down below in the description. I just didn't get them done before I went live. So that was just a weird, normally I have them done, but I didn't get them done. So hi, Nancy, her first time here. Wilma popped in, Elizabeth popped in. It's so great to see everyone from all over. I'm so grateful that you're here with me. It always amazes me how many people actually show up for the lives. It's just kind of exciting. Okay. All right. Here are the two stamp sets I am using. I need to get a little bit of, let me get a piece of white paper behind these stamp sets. So this is Fearless Joy with Gina K in my collection. We're going to be using May This Be a Year of, I think I'm going to use Happiness. This stamp set, I love this stamp set. It's got this really fun jar and this really fun background builder, which I'm going to talk about, and some of the leafery here. So I'm going to mash this stamp set up with an older set in my collection called Today and Always. And the really fun thing about this set is I'm going to do a little fussy cutting because this set is like I think one of the sets in my first year or so with Gina K. And I love this set because of the polka dots and because of the big honkin' flowers. This is a cabbage rose flower that we're going to be using today and a little bit of eucalyptus that we're going to be using today. But this stamp set doesn't have a coordinating die set like the Fearless Joy one does, because it was back in a time when I didn't have dies. Now, if you're interested and you have like a digital die cutter machine, on my website at indigojadeart.com actually just go to indigojadeart.com and click on the button freebies. You'll find I have a complete download for this set for like SVG files to cut these images out if that's something you're interested in. And yeah, if I can pull it up on the screen, I will, and I'll show it to everybody. So those are the two sets that we're using. I've got some of the stamps out here. I've got a piece of Turquoise C cardstock cut to an A2 size. I'm using the watercolor paper that we're using today. Whoopsie. Is, if you've been following me for a while, you'll know this is like one of my super faves for paper crafting. The Strathmore Ready Cut watercolor comes in 5x7 sheets. It's cold press. It's 100% cotton, and you're going to see why that's important to me when we start to stamp today. I've cut my card base with the Master Layouts die. I'm also going to be using the jar die, and I've actually already pre-cut that out. I'm using the jar die from Fearless Joy. We're going to do some pattern stamping on that set. So I've got some paper here for some the Strathmore Ready Cut watercolor paper here for my stamping. Hi Sue, thank you for your card. I got a card from Sue. It's just absolutely beautiful. It just came in the mail like a day ago. So thank you so much. Okay, all right, we're going to dive in and we're going to talk about watercolor. Now, the inks that we're using, and again, I'll have all these in the description down below. I just didn't get them in the description here on YouTube early enough. I'm using Obsidian for amalgam ink, and that's going to be for my sentiment. I've got a little bit of wild dandelion we're going to be using for a background builder. We're also going to be using it for one of the florals. This is fresh asparagus. I love this green. I'm using medium spruce. This is a really great blue green. I'm going to be using this green for the eucalyptus. And then I have two blues. So this is, thank you, Sue. That's very sweet of you. This two blues that I'm going to be using, Sea Glass and Tranquil Teal. We're going to be doing a little bit of watercoloring with these two blues. So let's get going. Let's get going. Okay. I hope everybody's doing well. I'm not going to do the background just yet. We're going to start off with doing the pattern design in the die cut. Now, in the Fearless Joy stamp set, thank you, Sue. In the Fearless Joy stamp set, I have this jar, or vase, or it could be a jar, and it has a coordinating die. So it does have a coordinating die, so if you want to stamp it and cut it out, that's great. But one of the things I love about some of the dies is that you get the shape, right? You get the shape and you don't necessarily need the actual stamped image. And that's what I'm going to do in this case. So what am I going to stamp out first? Well, I didn't grab it. We're going to stamp out this open flower. Now, a lot of the flowers in my stamp sets, if you're new to my lives or you're new to my stamp sets with Gina K Designs, all of my stamp sets in my collection are all like, they all coordinate in some way, meaning they're proportionally sized to work together. So that's why I do a lot of mashups on this channel, kind of mashing up 1 to 3 sets just to kind of show you different things that you can do with mashing up the sets together. So what we're going to do first is we're going to stamp out a pattern on this jar. And I'm just looking around and noticing that yeah, here it is. I forgot my little jar of water. We're going to need a little jar of water right there, because we're going to do a little bit of watercoloring. Okay, so I'm going to start with a pattern. Now on my channel, I have quite a few pattern stamping kind of tutorials. We're going to do a mini version of that today. And I'm just going to stamp out this open line floral all over this vase. I'm going to stamp it out with the sea glass. So I'm working light to dark. So I've got a lighter blue and then the turquoise sea, a darker blue. So I'm just kind of stamping this out. And I'm just going to get like 3 of them on there, not even cleaning. And then I'm just going to go ahead and stamp that again. Now, let's see if I can just kind of keep my space clean today. Do you think we can? We will see. Okay. Now, all of these, this is really pretty. Really pretty. Now, the inks, the Gina K inks are water-based. So you can reactivate them. Look, I'm going to reactivate some of these inks and do a little bit of washy watercoloring. So I've just got a little brush here. This is a little Princeton #3. You can use whatever you've got. I'm kind of going a little bit too wet here. And all I'm doing is taking my brush and dipping it in the water and just using the ink that's here and using it as like a wash. I'm just activating it and washing it out to the outer edges just to get that washy watercolor effect. I'm going to do it with my sea glass here too. I'm going to take a little bit of this turquoise color and just kind of come out the edges here. Now this technique that I'm doing is called dry on, wet on dry. So my paper is dry, my brush is wet. I'm moving the dye ink around and getting that like watercolor effect. This washy watercolor effect. Hi Nancy, first live. Welcome, welcome. Oh, we had some more people pop in. Hello. Okay, washy watercolor, right? Look at that. So your Gina K inks or any of your other dye-based inks that are in your stash that aren't necessarily like permanent, like the obsidian that we're going to use is kind of permanent. I'm working with the 100% cotton paper and it's giving me enough time to kind of move that color around and get that washy effect. So super fun. Water-based ink, so it's allowing me that time to kind of move things around. And I just love that. I've got this washy effect and that's exactly what I was going for. Okay. Yes, love it. That's my big honkin' flower and creating the pattern. Now, if you wanted to do this, like I cut the die cut out first, but you could easily just take a bigger, larger piece of paper, 100% cotton cardstock, right? This is 100% cotton. I've already said this, but this is that Strathmore Ready Cut Watercolor, cold press paper. The important thing about this washy effect is that it's 100% cotton. If you're using the Canson watercolor paper, that's a wood pulp paper, this technique would work too. But I really love using the 100% cotton. One of the things about watercolor that you'll hear me say over and over again is that sometimes the watercolor or the water-based medium that you're using doesn't matter as much as the paper. You get better effects when you have good paper. That's why we're using that's why we use Gina K paper, or we use really good papers that accept our inks really well. Okay. Got a little nerdy about paper there. Okay. Heidi just asked a great question. How long will the ink be able to react to the water after stamping? Very good question. So you kind of need to work a little quickly, but it's not like a distress ink. Now, distress inks have about 30 seconds when you're working with them for you to work with them. The Gina K inks or any other dye-based, water-based ink, you've got a little bit of time to work with them, but you saw that I was working kind of quickly. I stamped all my images out, and then I just started dropping the water on there and letting it do its thing. But I'm going to bring this up closer. Look at this turquoise sea flower, but also, you see the sea glass stamped images underneath? That's what makes it so cool. I love it. Now, Sue just asked, did you say this Strathmore watercolor paper has a smooth side? So the Strathmore paper has a textured side and it has another side. Now, you see these like little crinklies? That's from the roller, from it being rolled out. You could use either side. If you wanted that texture, you could use it. When I'm sharing the hot press paper that I've shared in the past, the hot press paper is smoother. Cold press paper has some texture to it, and it varies from brand to brand. This particular brand has texture, but not as intense of a texture. Okay. All right. I kind of nerded out there a little bit. That's why I love everybody's questions. Gives me a chance to get a little nerdy. Okay, now we're going to move in. We're going to do some watercolor stamping. And what I mean by that is a couple different things. I've got some water here. I know that I'm going to be putting that image there, but I want to go in and put in my leafery. I've got this leafery piece, and I'm going to use, let's see, I'm going to grab fresh asparagus, and I'm going to grab my dandelion, and I'm going to do sea glass. So let's put some of those other inks over here. I'm going to just build some things on my card base first. And what I'm going to do is I'm just taking a little bit of water, and I'm getting my paper a little bit wet, and just kind of dabbing off some of the big honking little spills of water I got going there. Okay. Now I'm going to lay this here, and this is just for reference for me, just so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to go in. This is what I'm calling watercolor stamping. I got my paper wet, my ink is dry, and I'm going to go in and do a little bit of stamping. I'm going to have this leaf come out the edge here and then also go up there. So I'm going to take this and move this out, stamp this down, and then I'm going to go up and kind of do the same thing. I'm just kind of laying this on here as a guide. In that vase, I've got a notch built into the design, so it kind of gives you a little anchor point for doing your leafery. Just a little quick tip. Those are the weird things I think of when I'm designing the stamps. All right, so I've got a little bit of water movement, but I want a little bit more. So I'm going to splash it a little bit and just kind of let it do its thing. So this is what I mean by watercolor stamping. So I'm getting my watercolor effects with my stamping inks and just kind of having some fun with it, getting some washy effects. If it's too much, look, you can dab off some. Easy peas. Lemon squeeze. Easy peas. Okay. Now I'm doing this layering. Now this layering is going to look like a hot mess at first, but I promise you, stick with me. It's going to be good because we're going to layer some other things on top. All right, I'm going to take my leafery off here, and I've got this medium honkin' flower, which is like from Today and Always. It's this one right here. It's this big brushstroke daisy. And when I created this brushstroke daisy-like flower, I created it because I wanted it to have the feeling of watercolor. Now I'm going to set my vase back down just so I can kind of get my positioning. I'm going to have this kind of go right up here and overlap a little. And we'll work a little bit quickly. Open up my wild dandelion and do a wild dandelion one right out the side here. And it's okay if it's going to overlap my, let's move that out of the way. It's okay that it's going to overlap a little bit. Now, these two stamps already kind of have a brushstroke effect, but I'm going to hit them with a little bit of water just for funsies. And I want to tell you that if I want this to move even more, I can just take my brush, kind of come in, move some things around. I can even mix these two colors together. Look at that. I'm taking a little bit of my wild dandelion and just kind of popping it up over there. Now, I intentionally illustrated this stamp set with the look and feel of brushstrokes, But if you really want that watercolor effect, just add a little bit of water to those edges and let them do their thing. Let them do their thing. All right, I'm digging this. I'm digging the way this is looking so far. So let me just take a quick poke. Questions. Heidi just says she started saying honkin' since she hears me say it. She's been hearing me say it. That's cool. I always say these big honkin' flowers, right? I've designed these big honkin' flowers in the stamp sets. So super fun. All right, I've got this for positioning. Now I'm going to come in over here. We're doing all of our base work right now. And then we're going to move to doing some of our pop, what I call my images that are going to pop up. Now, in the Today and Always stamp set, I have what I'm, not Today and Always, sorry about that, Fearless Joy. I have this image right here, which is a background builder image. And I'm going to show you how we're going to build that background. Now, my paper is still kind of wet. Let's turn that to the light so you can see. Still kind of wet right there. It's kind of doing its thing over here, and I'm loving it. Loving the way the leafery is looking. Now let's go in. I'm going to add a little bit of additional texture here in the wild dandelion, but I'm going to do it with this background builder, and I'm going to do it off of this left edge. So I'm starting from the top with this piece, and now I've got this here. You can see I'm just nesting it. I'm going to go all the way down. And it's going to go, it's overlapping some of the stamped images that I already have here. But guess what? That's what helps make the stamps the star of the show. I could have did this layer first. If I wasn't doing washy watercolor, and I was doing this technique just straight up ink stamping on some white cardstock, I would have done this layer first. But because I'm doing washy watercolor and I've got it mixed in with the leafery, I want these layers. I'm going to hit this with a little bit of water. Look at it. I've got this. You could use any kind of water sprayer that you have. This one does a fine mist, and I actually think this is for cleaning products. I'm pretty sure I bought this at Target. It's glass. I just liked it because it was bigger, and I liked the way that spritzed out. Okay. Yes. All right. Now I'm just going to dab off some of my big honkin' blobs of water. And then I'm going to bring it up. Now I've got all my base elements on here, except for my sentiment. I'm going to bring this up and take a peek. Look at the leafery here and that wild asparagus. Fresh asparagus color. You can see some of the dye in the fresh asparagus separating. So you get a little bit of yellows and the greens. Fresh asparagus is one of those really great colors that is a yellow green, like an olivey. So yes, look at all those watercolor effects. And now with this layering, we've layered things over top. We've got that pattern sitting over top of that daisy. And you've got this illusion of all of these different layers happening. And the stamps are the star of the show. And every time I talk about every live, everything, I'm always talking about how we can mash up our stamp sets, make the stamp sets the star of the show, and create these really interesting layered cards. Okay, so I'm just going to layer that over for positioning right now. Now, I want to create, I'm going to use 2 other stamps and create embellishments that we're going to pop up on this final card. So let's go ahead. I've got another piece of watercolor here. Let's see if we have any questions. I see some chat going on, and everybody in the chat are kind of sharing some of your tips and tricks with each other. I love that. All right, cabbage rose. This is, I love this little cabbage rose. It's pretty intense. It's great for creating patterns. I am going to show you how we're going to use it in an alternative color. We're going to use it in Tranquil Teal because I've got these blues and these yellows going today. Kind of wintry colors. We're going to stamp out our cabbage rose. And before I do that, I just want to hit my paper with just a smidge of water because I want things to move a little bit. Hold the phone. I got some big drips, and I don't want too big drippies. So let's just go ahead and stamp that out. And you can see that the cabbage rose is starting to move a little bit. Now I'm going to make it move a wee bit more. Okay. All right. Someone asked about the next release. Nancy answered the question. January 17th. I'm going to add, look at this. I'm just going to add a couple drips of water over top. Just, and let that kind of do its thing. Let that kind of do its thing. I got a lot of water going here. So see, I could come in and all I got to do is touch that a little bit. But I don't want it to be too much because I've got to cut this out. So I'm going to take a little bit of my paper towel here that's kind of wet. I don't know what happened there. Just dab off a little bit of that and let that fly the way it is. Okay. All right, there we go. Let's go ahead and clean off my stamps along the way. I don't always clean. Now I'm going to grab my eucalyptus. This is a eucalyptus-like leafery, and I'm going to grab medium spruce. So, my color combinations, I didn't stamp them out for you today. Sorry about that. Usually I do that. My color combinations are very, lots of blues and greens. This medium spruce, I think I'd hit that too hard. Nope, we're going to let it be. Let me show you. So, when you've got a spot that you've stamped, and we're doing this watercolor stamping, and it's not completely full, that's okay. Just get a little tiny brush, get the tip of your brush. We're activating that die, and I just kind of completed that image. And right here, where I've got some of that, the paper showing through, I'm just going to drop a little bit of water in there. Just kind of blend this out a little bit. Digging it. Okay, look at this. I'm going to grab a little bit of this blue from Tranquil Teal. I love that color. Is it Tranquil Teal? Yeah. I love that Gina K Tranquil Teal. Love it! I use it a lot. Look, I'm just grabbing a little bit from over there, just activating it with my brush and just kind of popping it in over here. Okay, digging this. Now, going to have to fussy cut these images out because, like I said, this stamp set was one of the in my line with Gina K. This stamp set has been around a bit, so it doesn't have coordinating dies. We weren't doing coordinating dies back then, so I was supplying everyone with SVG files for your digital die cutters if you were interested. So if you missed that at the beginning, I do have a digital die cut file, and I also have like a couple other things in that file, like just bigger. This big honkin' daisy is a lot bigger, and it's a die cut you can cut out for free. That's on my website. indigojadeart.com. Click on freebies and you get all the freebies. If you're new here, that's also where I house all of the card idea sheets for my stamp sets. And there's a lot of other freebies on there too. All right, we're going to do a little bit of fussy cutting. I've got these really great scissors. This image right here is basically a circle, so not such a big deal. I know that fussy cutting gets a bad rap, but here's how I do it. I don't move the scissors as much as I move the paper. So I always make sure my paper, you can see I'm just kind of moving the paper around the scissors. So sometimes I think, here, let's just get off that big chunk right there. Sometimes I think a fussy cutting gets a bad rap because it takes some time to do. Now I wouldn't, we're all, wouldn't want to fussy cut everything out. But, you know, these easier, simple shapes make it pretty easy to do. Love it. Okay. Make it pretty easy to do. And, here's the thing, folks. Here's the thing, friends. I am left-handed, as you know. You see me do everything left-handed. But I cut everything with my right hand because I went to school at a time when left-handers weren't really, I don't know, weren't really accepted. I don't know if that's even the right word. The when I was in school, like kindergarten and first grade, it was encouraged to try to be a right-hander. So I learned how to do things with both hands. All right, I'm going in right here, and I'm just going to start following the shape a little bit, and go around here. And it's going to be okay if it's not perfect. So you can see I'm moving the paper more than I'm actually moving the scissors. So you don't see me kind of going in and going around like that. You see me holding the paper and moving the paper. So I am a left-hander. And one of the things I can't do very well is use left-handed scissors to cut things. Because when I learned how to use scissors as a young person, as a young child, they didn't have many left-handed scissors. Like there weren't a lot of things for lefties, right? So you just learned. I didn't know any different, and I wasn't upset. I just learned and I adapted and I became more ambidextrous, which I think is a great life skill to be able to do things with both hands. Okay, so I've cut this out. Oops, where did it go? Oh, there it is. I've cut these two pieces out. Now look at those washy watercolory effects. So, oh, loving it. I like how everybody's sharing in the chat about left-handers. Got slapped a lot in the back in the day. Yeah, I didn't get like slapped, but it was just I was the only left-hander. I can vividly remember these core memory of first grade. I was the only left-hander in the class. So, you know, sadly, I guess the teacher really didn't have maybe the resources or know what to do with that, right? So, um, and I don't remember left-handed scissors, so it's kind of funny, kind of funny. And back then I feel like, and this was the 70s, okay, when I was in school, early 70s. So they, you know, they really just tried, like when you were learning to write too, as a left-hander, remember you would turn your paper a certain way when you were learning cursive. Well, for lefties, you know, you have to turn your paper like this way, but they were teaching mostly right-handers. So my handwriting always looked different too, which is kind of like, it's interesting. And I just think it's, you know, just kind of a fun fact. Things happened. I learned how to be ambidextrous. And that's where I really honed my fussy cutting skills too, because I learned how to do things with my right hand and cutting with my right hand. It's interesting. Catherine just shared my mother was left-handed. My mother was right-handed, but she was not really down for anybody trying to tell me to be a right-hander if I wanted to be a left-hander. She didn't believe that I should have to write like everybody else. If I was a left-hander, she believed I should you know, get the support. So it was kind of fun. Okay. Now, I've got all my elements here. We're going to build the card, and then I'm going to do the sentiment, because how many times, friends, have you built a card, got it all done, went and put the sentiment on there, and then it was like Booger Town, right? You just boogered it up. Well, that happens to me a lot. So I'm taking a little bit of Gina K Designs glue. So we're going to use the Misty today to help. And I'm going to add a little bit of glue to the back of this. base that we've created, opening up my card. The reason why I like to use the wet glue is it gives me some time to kind of eyeball and move my watercolor base down. Sue just shared about scissors. The left-handed scissors. Lefties, righties, it's all good. We're all good. Oh, I just realized I'm also missing some foam tape brands because I want to pop these two pieces up. I'm going to go ahead and close this card. Now, I'm loving these washi effects on here. Look at that. How many people tell me, how many people today, we've got like 30 of us in here today. Holy smokes. How many of us feel a little intimidated by this technique? Don't. I'm telling you, don't feel intimidated by the technique because all we did was wet the paper and stamped on top of it to get these washi effects. How fun is that? I love how everybody's sharing their lefty stories and some of their stories about being ambidextrous, and it's so fun. I find great joy in all of the lessons of life. All right, we're going to take our pattern piece. Look at that. Oh, digging it, loving it. We're going to put some glue on my vase here. You can see that I'm not super fancy in how I put that on. Everybody's saying kind of strange, kind of cool. So when you're doing this technique, don't feel intimidated. It's just one more way to utilize your inks, any inks that you have in your stash, as a watercolor medium and get these washy watercolor effects, which I love, love. Okay, now we've got this down here. I'm going to pop, I want my cabbage rose. Not a lot of my leafery is showing, and that's kind of like, I'm not feeling great about that, but it's not the end of the world. I'm going to take a little bit of this. I hear a little something going on out there. There we go. Robbie just said, I'm really loving the vase. Yes, you can rewatch it from the beginning of how we created the pattern on that vase. I'm popping this down, get a little bit of height and a little bit of texture without a ton of height. And then I've got my eucalyptus. Now look at that color. That medium spruce is gorgeous. And it's okay. I'm just going to add a little bit of glue just to this bottom part. I'm going to pop this in like right here. And just let that kind of pop up a little bit right there. So we've got a lot of movement going this way, right? I've got some leafery going this way. I've got my two very subtle daisy blooms in the back. Big honking cabbage bloom here. This pattern going on in the vase. And the vase is very subtle because it's kind of this white on white. But the subtlety of the die cut is that we created that pattern. So it's there. We can see that all of these beautiful blooms are popping out of a vase, but it's very, very subtle. And we used our stamps and just a little bit of water to create that. Love that. And I've got that leafery kind of popping out there. So, Catherine, that's great. She said, one of the reasons I'm learning watercolor is to loosen up a bit. Yes. And so it does feel a little bit scary when you're thinking about loosening up and trying to use your supplies in a different way, to kind of maximize them. This is permission. This is permission, friends, to just try a couple of these things, even if you're not completing a card. Who cares if you complete a card, right? Even if you're just practicing on some paper, spraying some water, stamping an image down and seeing what it does. Like, how fun is that? Okay, so just give it a try and get comfortable with it. And the results are these really super fun, washy watercolor effects. We've used stamps, ink, and paper. That's it, right? It's just paper. No biggie. Okay, now I've got a lot of this designs going this way. So one of the ways that I'm going to ground it is with a sentiment here. But I got a little feeling here that I might have made that vase a little too far over. Let's take a peek. I really like this stamp set because when I created this stamp set, this came out in a January, not last January, I think maybe the January before. And it was COVID year, right? So it was all like, may this be a year of. I was, feeling hopeful about our year. So here's our sentiment. Okay, let's see what we got here. Now, I don't know what happened to my magnets. They're probably in the other MISTI, so I'm just really going to make sure that I've got that down in that corner. And my MISTI is dirty. It's a hot mess. So we're going to start by putting that first word down, happiness, to see if it fits. See if I gave myself enough room. And because I'm going to stamp this in black over top of that dandelion, that's why I used the wild dandelion. It was a lighter yellow. And it looks like I'm going to be able to fit that in there. Sometimes, sometimes eyeballing is good. Let's go ahead and put that. Do that happiness. Let's find the obsidian. Now, I could, free range it and stamp this down. If I was working with some Gina K paper or other white paper, I would free range it and I would just stamp it down and go for it. But I'm working with this watercolor paper. So there's a lot more fiber in the paper. And it's meant to be wet and take on wet mediums. So I'm using the MISTI because I can probably be better off and guarantee that I'll get at least a better impression with my stamp. I don't have one of them tools all the time. I just kind of just hold it down. Now you see, oh, my H isn't kind of popping there. So let's see, friends. We're either going to booger this up because I'm famous for boogering it. Making sure that's down in that corner. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Yeah, all right, good. Got that H coming in hot, right? Oh boy. How many? Who? Raise your hand, right? I guess your proverbial internet hand is to how many times you've gotten to the end of your card and you boogered it up, right? Yeah. I have many times. All right, so now I have the may this be a year of, and I'm just going to nest this in. This could get all wild cardy right here. I'm going to nest this in right here. Just kind of eyeballing it right above the happiness word. That's another thing I like to do with my sentiments in my stamps. And making sure that they work well together. Make sure that they nest well together. Everybody's kind of chiming in with too many times. Oh yeah, thanks. Ooh, Catherine said my underpad wasn't flush left. Good call. Did you see that? Yeah, thank you. I totally missed that. All right, let's see what happens. Gonna stamp that down. Just give it some good pressure. And not so bad on the first go. We're going to let that fly. Let's go ahead and clean off my stamp, right? Because I evidently am cleaning things now. All right, I'm digging this. I'm digging the way this looks. Now, I want to add a little something to it, right? Robbie said I'm a classic booger girl. Kathy raised her hand too. Literally, friends. we all just do it. We get to the end, right? We've got this great composition going and I boogered it up. But you know what? You can always, it's just paper. You can always just put some paper over top of it. That's what makes it kind of fun. I like to do my stamps on top of things. Now look at that. We've got these layers. We've got all these inks going. We've got this washy effect. My design composition is kind of going up this way, but then my pattern brings me back down to where my sentiment is. So it's a little bit of a reverse kind of design, and I'm digging it. Now I'm going to go in. Normally I would do a little bit of splatter or something like that, but we've got a lot going on here in our washy watercolor. Already got enough washiness going. So I'm going to come in. I've got this Uniball Signo silver pen that I found in my stash. And I'm just going to go in and just start adding a little bit of silver, just little circles. And this is just going to be really subtle. You could go in, I'm going to add a couple little silver bits. I love those Uniball Signos because they really do a nice job. The white one, the silver one, the gold one. They do a really nice job of working, right? How many pens do you have in your stash that don't work when you go to use them? I have a lot. And then you get mad and you kind of toss it and you're like, ugh, I won't buy it. You were like, I won't buy that one again. So you can see I'm adding a few little dots in here. This dials up the whimsy. I like to do things that are whimsical. This really, adding these little tiny dots just dials up the whimsy a little bit. And I'm being super random in where I'm putting it. Just kind of like it's dancing around here. Sue just said she definitely feels like she could do this technique. Yes, everybody can. I just did it. I'm not like a super duper experty. I just practice and I try new things, and everybody can do this. That's what makes it fun. All right, I'm digging this. I kind of dialed up the whimsy quite a bit on this one. Yeah, look at that. Dialed up the whimsy there with a little bit of silver. You could go in definitely and put, you know, sequins or any of our other little embelly kind of things to kind of make it come to life. Yeah, loving that. Okay, and that's it. Friends, how quick was that? A really fun watercolor card. Here was our original inspiration. They're pretty similar. Yeah. I'm kind of digging this one a little bit more. I really like how I got that cabbage flower to be a little more washy-washy. So dig in that. Okay. Let's go ahead and head back to the front camera, see if anybody has any questions. I can't believe, those are my glasses that are flying off my face. I can't believe I got that done in an hour. You know what? I got a few more. How would everybody like a little bit of a let's do a quick pattern lesson. Yeah, we've got some minutes. So I talked about creating that pattern in here. I'm going to talk a little bit about pattern stamping. We've got a few minutes here, and I feel like you'll get a lot of value out of this. I think I have a series of 6 videos on my channel for pattern stamping, and I kind of broke them down. You can create your own pattern backgrounds. But what I'm going to do, nope, not that one, is just kind of show you my technique for it. So normally, if I didn't die cut that out first and then do the pattern, I would take a piece of watercolor paper or paper, cover the whole thing, and create my pattern, and then use it with other die cuts. And that's what's really fun about your stamps. So I've got this big honkin' floral from the Fearless Joy stamp set, that big open line floral, which is great for watercoloring or leaving be. I'm going to use some sea glass. I've got Turquoise, and then I'm going to give it a little bit of a pop with a third color. Before we head up, oops, got a card sitting in there. Let's move that out. Okay. All right. I'm going to take my two colors here. Let me grab a smaller piece. So here's a smaller piece that's more like a card front. Now, when I'm doing pattern stamping with multiple colors, I'm working in threes. And the reason is it's just a great way to remember things. Okay. So if I'm starting at the top, I'll start at the top here, get some more ink, turn the stamp a little bit, and I'm working off the edge of my paper here to really get that pattern. So I start at the top, then I'll put one over here on the right, turn my stamp again, and then boom. So I've started to create this little triad of color. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, little triangle. Now I'm going to come in with my Turquoise, and I'm going to do the same thing. And I'm all the while I'm turning my stamps so that you get different looks and different versions, so to speak, of the stamp turned different ways so it looks different. So 1, 2. I think I'm going to come up and off the edge there a little bit. Turn. Nope, going to go right here. 3. Okay. So you can see the beginnings of a pattern starting to happen. This would be great as a card base by itself. You can put your sentiment right there. We're going to cover the whole thing because that's what we're going to do. We're going to cover the whole thing, and then you can use that piece of patterned paper, run it through your die cutter. You know, we could run it through this, and then it becomes a card base. Or you could take one of your dies, like your vase die, and just, you would get 3 vases out of that. Look at that. Shampoo. All right. Inking up again with a little bit of the sea glass. This time I'm going to start here, here, and here. So I'm just turning my stamp. Oops. Coming off the edge a little bit. Ha ha ha. Everybody seems to be digging this. Turning my stamp a little bit. Boom. Coming off the edge. And now I'm going to go down here. And let them overlap. Let these stamps overlap. Now Heidi asked, like, how long could we do this and still reactivate our color? So we've been at this for, I don't know, a couple minutes, a minute or so. Now I'm going to go here, here, and maybe like right there. So here, a little bit right there. I'm letting this overlap. I don't really like the way those two are right there, but that's okay. Letting that overlap. Just constantly working in like a triangle. Now I'm going to close these up, and my finishing thing here, I'm going to pop some yellow. You've heard me talk about yellow as a finishing color. Little bit of yellow. This wild dandelion I love. Turn my stamp a little bit, stamp it down. Ooh, had a little bit of that turquoise on that color, on that stamp. That's okay. And then kind of like pop this in right here. And I've got my pattern. I might even take a little bit of yellow and pop it down right there. Now I've got my pattern. Okay. I'm going to bring in a little bit of water. And can just kind of activate. Okay, so we talked about this. We've been working on this. Heidi asked this question. We've been working on this for a bit. And look, I'm still able to activate that turquoise, that Tranquil teal, and get that moving a little bit. Let's take a little bit, clean brush, bring this out to the outer edge a little bit. And I'm starting to get that washy effect. That's blending in with the wild dandelion. Holy smoke. Marita said I have shared this. Yes, I do. I have a series of videos on my YouTube channel. But sometimes, you know, these videos don't always get seen, right? So we just bring it back out and we try something new with it. I'm loving that. Look at how those colors are blending together to create a new one. Ah, I love it. Okay, you could also hit this with a little bit of water. And look, I just made all that blend in smooth and get all washy. If you don't like the way it's looking, like if you've hit it with a little bit of water, look, you can recover. You don't like the way it looks, just dab a little paper towel on it and take some of that away, but you get that washy effect. And that, my friends, is how I do a pattern. Now look at this. If we took this vase and we pop this, look at all these different combinations. Let's just bring this up a little bit. Look at all these different combinations of the pattern you can get with this vase. I could turn it this way. Oh, I love that. That's why I love our stamps, friends, because stamps are the star of the show. You can do so much more with them than just straight up stamping. This literally looks like it could be a great pillow, right? Or something like some kind of home decor-y fun thing. It could be really, really fun. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and pop back to the front camera. I got a little silly there. I just get really silly when I'm talking about watercolor because I just love it so much. And I hope that comes through. How much I love sharing with you all, and how much I really love hoping that you're exploring with your products and your different things that are in your paper crafting stash, because it's just so much fun. It's so much fun to just use our inks and use our paper and just create these beautiful watercolory things, right? Super, super fun. Okay, so couple things. We got a new release coming with Gina K Designs next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central. So for me, that's 8 p.m. Eastern. Lots of fun. I love the stamp set that's coming. I know I say that about all of my stamp sets, but I do love it. Got lots of fun inspiration that I'm going to be sharing. Just super, super fun. Okay. Also, if you're at all interested, many of you, I'm recognizing a lot of names in the chat today. Many of you might be new to my lives, or new to seeing these in general. If you're at all interested in knowing when I go live, I like to go live once a week. Get on my email list, friends. Get on my email list. It's literally free, and I share lots of free things. I send an email 3 to 4 times a month, so once a week usually. And I announce when I'm going live. I announce when new products are coming out with Gina K Designs, or when I'm offering new things in my online classroom or in my shop, discounts, all the things. Okay, Sue just asked a quick question. How many stamp sets do you have coming out on Tuesday? One stamp set, one coordinating die, and yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it. It is in proportion to all of the things in my line, and it's just a really, really, really great stamp set that's going to help you create beautiful moments in your life. Okay, I've said enough. Okay, so that's happening on Tuesday. If you're at all interested, you can, in my email list, you can grab the link down below in the description. It's free to you. I also have in my online classroom at craftyourjoy.com, I have a free online community. I share a lot in our Gina K Designs Facebook group. I've also shared a lot on Facebook and Instagram, but I'm not always 100% sure if all of my friends see what I post. So I created my own online community in my classroom where I'm sharing, like the replay for this will be there. I share everything all in one place. So freebies, lots of things, all in that community. Again, that's free to you too as well. You can find that link down below in the description as well. Now, one more thing and peace out, right? I have a new offering that I am going to be sharing because I wanted to take a deeper dive into watercolor. I have watercolor classes in my classroom. Many of you have taken them, are in them. I'm going to be offering an online class. It's called Whimsical Watercolor Mini Classes. So it's one class a month where we make an oversized card project, and I am teaching you watercolor techniques in a micro way. And we're going to paint together. So the first class is going to be Wednesday, January 24th, 24th or 25th. If you're on my email list, it went out. Just a little teaser went out. But this, I'm teasing it right now. This is the card that we're going to make. And I am going to teach you how to paint that card. No illustration experience required. No big fancy stuff. You can do this. And the lesson is centered around painting those cabbage roses and painting those little rosettes. So super fun. Get on my email list if you're interested, or feel free to reach out to me. More information about the class and registrations happening next week. Super affordable monthly classes for you to take some time to craft your joy. So just a little teaser for that. Thank you for listening. Okay. Just double checking. Prove how much, Robbie. She said, prove how much you love this stamp set by showing a sneak peek. I really want to, but I'm not going to do that because I don't ever want to trump sweet, sweet Gina. She's going to be sharing all of the entire release and the kit. She's going to be sharing some sneak peeks, probably starting today and through the weekend. So I would never trump her. I love Gina. She's so super sweet. I'm so, so grateful to her. Okay, friends. All right. I hope you enjoyed today. I hope you enjoyed. I was super enthusiastic about today. I will be back live next Wednesday, 11:30 Eastern. If you're on my email list, you'll get that information. Tuesday night is the Gina K Designs live. Wednesday, I'm going to be doing a card mashup tutorial with the new stamp set and something else. I don't know what it's going to be yet. So that's going to be at 11:30. If you can't make it, no worries. Always we'll have it on the replay. We'll always have it on the replay. So thanks, everyone. I hope you get some time to craft your joy. I'm sending you into the weekend with some inspiration to craft your joy. Try out this watercolor technique with your dye inks. Please, if you do it, tag and you share it in social media, tag me so I can see it, come out and give you some love. So have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you so, so much for joining me. I'm so, so grateful. And I'll see you next week. Have a good one. Bye.